Welcome to the 11 Warriors Show. Jason Priestess, Chris Lauterbach, coming to you bright and early on this Wednesday morning in January. Chris, I pretty much ate everything I could over the last week and a half or so, 2 weeks, the holidays. It's been a problem, man.
I'm struggling too. I felt like I was, because I was like, all right, January 1, knock it off. I'll not eat after the kids go to bed, just between 11:30, 6:30, shut it down. Try to less carbs, whatever. I'm not too scientific about it, but want to lose a little bit. So I felt like I took it as a challenge the last 2 weeks to just eat like a freed hostage.
Me too.
You have so much stuff in your house. I feel like cookies just show up out of nowhere. I wasn't even hungry, and I was crushing that stuff because I didn't want to throw it away. Like I even paid for it. So yeah, I'm with you, man. We gotta get back on the wagon here.
I mean, I had the same mindset. I knew that going into next year or this year, I was going to try to eat better. So I'm like, well, that's next year. I got some time to just be stupid about things. And, but yeah. So hold us accountable if you're watching. Hopefully our faces get thinner through the months as we go. But man, some games, right? Like number 1, Michigan, 27, number 4, Alabama, 20 in overtime.
Needed comfort food. Needed lots of comfort food for that one, man.
There's a lot of depressed,
I was in shambles.
A lot of depressed Ohio State fans counting on Bama to kind of save things for us. And, didn't happen, man. I mean, what thoughts do you have from the game?
Yeah, my first thought, I picked Alabama to win. I felt like it was a toss-up.
To win the game or the whole thing?
To win the game. But I felt like it was, just a little bit of heart in there. Michigan's good. I mean, I hate it. I hate it, but they are good. And they're well coached, which I hate even worse. I wish they just had really good players, and I could hate Harbaugh for being lucky. But man, that just strategically they're good. Now they did some dumb things in that game, special teams or whatever, but I felt like I've said a million times, it's great having all that talent on the outside and whatever, but you got to win the trenches. Michigan's defensive line, to me, was the difference in the game.
5 first half sacks. 6 for the game.
And even when they weren't making sacks, it was just disruption. It really took Alabama a lot out of what they wanted to do. I don't think Burton was really a factor at all. Milroe was definitely flustered at times, and I felt like it all hinged on that last play of the game. It was I don't even know what they were doing there. But again, the defensive line, when it mattered the most, Michigan's defensive line was the strongest position group on the field, and kind of willed them to win, I thought.
Yeah, mistakes on both sides, both teams. I think you had a lot of Ohio State fans saying, "Where was this sloppy play when they played us?" And a lot of Georgia fans probably saying the same thing. Like, who is this team that didn't do this in the Mercedes-Benz Georgia Dome when we played them? I'm glad you mentioned the Michigan's a good team, because it sucks to say that, and I think I got this theory, and I don't know how pervasive it is, but I think among a certain segment of Ohio State fans, and it gets tricky with the sign stealing because that complicates things. You're like, how good are they truly, or whatnot. But amongst a certain segment of Ohio State fans, I think they have 2012 to 2019 Michigan anchored in their head, and that's all they want to give them credit for being. But they're a really good team, really good team. And he's built a good program. He's built something that his players clearly love him. He's built something. He went to a Super Bowl. He built Stanford up. Stanford was kicking USC's ass towards the end of his time out there.
He's done it in multiple places.
Yeah, he's a good coach. Whether you want to admit it, whether it's fun to admit it, he's a good coach, and his guys clearly like him. And you talked about some of the guys on the staff, or you kind of alluded to it, like Sharon Moore, man, the OC. What a dude, man. He, of course, beat Ohio State when Harbaugh was suspended for that one. That last drive down 20-13 in the fourth quarter, 4:41 to play, 8 plays, 75 yards, just dialing up plays. I'm like, I love these plays. I want someone to call those plays for Ohio State. It was one thing this way, another misdirection that way. They had Alabama on their heels the entire drive, man. It was beautiful to watch. Yeah, it really was.
When they needed it. When they absolutely had to have it. Now, Alabama probably, you see this happen all the time. Michigan, ton of credit, but where defenses almost play not to lose there. They know they got a little bit of room. They're trying to make sure they don't give up touchdown. What do? They give up a touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was even with it. Was that the drive where Roman Wilson lost his mind and had the most blatant clip of all time, and then he had ended up having a big catch later.
Yeah,
in that same drive,
tipped catch, right?
Yeah.
What about that? That's intercepted.
Higher trajectory, and
if Kyle McCord throws that ball, it's intercepted. They have so much luck going for right now.
Yeah, one of the two.
Yeah, it's unreal. But a thing of work, man. It's beautiful to watch. And like you said, they were trying to play a little prevent to some degree, not full prevent, but not give it. And Michigan doesn't have game breaking receivers. That's not how you need to play them on that drive. You need to play them on the outs, on slants, on hitches. They don't have Marv who's going to go over the top and dust you. So I don't know. I mean, like two teams I hated. I did want Alabama to win. I'm not going to lie. If it's we talked last week. If it's Minnesota playing this game, I'm a Gopher fan. I want them to win the national championship for the Big Ten. Michigan, I don't want anything good to happen for them. So the one night in my life, I can remember cheering for Alabama and they let me down.
Right. All the more reason to hate them every other time than when they're playing Michigan.
Thanks a lot, Nick Saban. But like I was envious of Alabama's kicker though, man. Dude hit a 50 and a 52 on the night, 2 for 2. Fantastic game. Then Washington 37, Texas 31 in the nightcap. Going to show them, a little late, right? I'm not going to lie. I didn't watch. Did you watch both of them?
I fell asleep in a commercial break late in the Washington game.
Turned good late, man. But like, it's on too late too. Like, I mean, midnight here.
Second half started like after 11 o'clock.
It's insane. Yeah, it's insane. Start these games earlier. I'm old. I want to see them a little earlier. I mean, kids. There's some kids going back to school. You going back to work. Like, you're taking part of your audience out of it. But Washington was my pick to win it all, so I'm not surprised to see that. Michigan was my second pick. I mean, I thought we'd see this matchup, and don't believe me? Go back and hit our YouTube archives, and it's out there. I did say it. I love this Washington team. I do. Amazing quarterback. He's like 32, but he's an amazing quarterback. Great skill players. Their coach is a dude. Like, you think Tressel cleaned it up at Youngstown State? Go look at Kalen's NIAI record. Like 67-3, like 5 years, 4 natties, like insane stuff. 3 natties, lost 1 in the championship. So 3 natties and a runner-up in 5 years. I love guys like that. I think if you can win at that level, you're going to win at other levels. And underdogs all year. They were dogs the first time they faced Oregon, beat them. Had to play Oregon again in the Pac-12 championships. Underdogs again for some reason.
Yeah,
beat them again.
9.5. Yeah, crazy.
Underdogs against Texas for some reason, even though they were 13-0, and Texas was 12-1. Just kept getting it done. I think they're a team of destiny. So, I mean, what I'm getting at right now is I'm a big UW fan, and they need to get it done Monday night, right? I mean, there's no other way to say it.
They absolutely do. I feel more confident, honestly, in that Washington matchup than I did in the Bama matchup. I think the spread, Michigan, I don't know if you said it, maybe 4.5, 4, something like that. I know they're favored. But yeah, I thought the Washington game versus Tech, that was the one I felt the most confident in as well. I felt like Michigan, Bama, toss up. Washington, I felt really good about. They kind of almost let Texas, kind of steal it late, but they looked like the better team over the balance of that game to me. That game, I think, is going to come down to, again, just thinking about line play, but Washington's offensive line. How's Washington's offensive line going to hold up against Michigan's defensive line? And Washington, typically you think, Pac-12 not going to be good in the trenches, that kind of thing. We've seen it, ourselves, but I think they've done a pretty good job at limiting sacks this year, and they have to. As good as Penix has been, I saw some numbers of him on the run or outside the pocket, and they're not very good. He wants to stand back there and be able to deliver. So if Washington can withstand the pass rush, then I think that, you turn this game into a shootout. I like Washington, and I like McCarthy's made some plays. He's a gamer. I'll give him that. But I think in that head-to-head quarterback matchup, I think most people are going to take Penix 10 out of 10 to win a college game.
I agree. It comes down to the line. If they give them time, Washington wins. If they don't, then we're going to have our worst fears come true on Monday night. Because
can't happen.
I
will go to bed if that's true.
I will shut that stuff off at the final whistle. Actually, if it's a lead, I'm shutting it off. I'll go watch like Nickelodeon or something. I'm not going to mess around watching. I don't want to see them holding any trophies. I don't want to see them smiling. But I mean, just like years and years and years of blowouts in the 4-team semis. I mean, there've been like 3, 4, 5 maybe good games. I mean, Oklahoma, Georgia played a great one. Ohio State, Alabama played a great one. Ohio State, Georgia played a great one. But the last 2 years, all 4 of them have been bangers, man. Yeah. TCU, Michigan was great. Ohio State, Georgia. I mean, we lost, but it was still a fantastic game.
Great college football game.
And then Monday night, 2 really, really good games. Numbers in 27.2 million viewers for the Rose Bowl. Best for a CFP semifinal since 2015. Wonder who had the higher number there. Wonder what team that was. So, I mean, just
what do you think about, real quick? I saw some stuff on Twitter to Herbie and Clatton, those guys talking about like the Rose Bowl as a venue and saying, hey, when the CFP gets this going and you got the full 12-teamer, should the national championship be at one venue every year and have it be at the Rose Bowl? Do you think that thing should bounce around, or do you think it should be in the Rose Bowl? And can it be, right? You don't have the luxury suite. You don't have those kinds of things. I'm curious to your take on that. Knowing you've been out to Pasadena, I think it's a just an awesome showcase. I could buy into that because the profits don't matter to me. But how realistic is that?
I loved it. I think it's a cool, probably the coolest stadium on earth for college football. just the scenery and the San Gabriel Mountains and the sunset and everything you have going out there and the gorgeous weather to tailgate in January, but too much money involved for it to be at one place because Houston's not going to want that. Miami's not going to want that. Atlanta's not going to want that. Hell, Minneapolis may not want that. I mean, it was in the Indy a couple years ago, right? Was it Indy last year?
Yeah.
It was in Indy last year. Yeah, it was in Indy. When Georgia beat TCU, that was in Indianapolis. So too much money, I think, for one place to lock it down. I think the Rose Bowl would love that. I think the people of Southern California would love that, but I don't know if that's reality. I would probably be cool with it. I mean, like it's neat, man. Like, you know, just to go out there at that time. I mean,
you could build some history. Like the national championship game's going to be there. Like every year, you know, you're fighting to get to Pasadena. You know, like no matter where it was, but certainly Pasadena would you know, be huge for historical purposes. But I kind of like that angle too.
Look at the Super Bowl. I mean, that move. So I don't think it would. I could live with it though. I don't think it'll happen. But man, you couldn't choose if you're going to put it in one place every year, that's the place to do it.
Right.
You know, I really enjoy that. Good night for Northern football too. I mean, it's the first year since 2015 CFP that the SEC is not even involved in the championship game. So I wish them well. Hope they recover. What about Harbaugh, man? This is a guy. I mean, we were talking at the time, like, has there ever been a coach suspended 2 times in the same season for 3 games before? I don't think it's ever happened, right?
Yeah, I don't know who it is if it has.
I mean, Tarkanian would probably be my best guess. Like if I had to pick somebody in college sports,
Tim Floyd. There's some names.
Got to do Will Wade and got to do a little research on that. Bruce Pearl might be in that mix. Got to do a little research, but certainly not in football. Twice suspended. He's playing for a natty now. Stock is super hot. You know he's wanted to go there. He's openly interviewed for NFL jobs the last couple of years. His stock's probably highest right now for that kind of jump.
Yeah.
And you know, and I don't blame him if he does want to go to the NFL because frankly, it's college coaching's twice the work that an NFL job is now with the portal and NIL and recruiting. And like, you know, many times we've talked about this. Bill Belichick, in about, 3 weeks, he's going to be done until June. You know, he won't have anything to really do. Get the draft, I guess, but like largely done until June. And not in college, man. They don't hardly get any time off. So I can't blame him for wanting to jump. Hasn't signed his extension yet. Remember the contract extension Michigan media has been telling us he's about to sign for like 3 months now? Hasn't signed yet. Hired an agent last week, an NFL-type agent. Has a very senior and fifth-year laden team this year. So he's going to lose a lot of that. Probably going to lose both those coordinators, man. Sharon Moore certainly is going to get hired. Jesse Minter, the DC, will probably get a good job. And you know, they had an easy schedule this year. Next year, they got Texas at home, USC at home, at Washington, Oregon at home, at Ohio State. Much, much harder sled next year. Nice little opportunity for him to jump and kind of leave whatever the NCAA comes back with, that schedule, a younger roster, leave that to someone else.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it. And I don't think a win or a loss on, Monday night will make next Monday will make a difference either. I think he's just going to weigh what his options are. It's definitely going to be a different team next year. Even if a McCarthy wants to come back, they're still going to have, and that's not slighting Michigan. They're losing a lot of dudes. That happens. So the time may be right, especially if they win it. But yeah, I mean, it feels like, Ward Manuel's not going to say he's frustrated, but I saw some stuff last night. Guys were like, hey, we extend him. He's like, I'm trying. I think Harbaugh's just, stiff arm him, keep him at bay, trying to, probably some back channels working to see what may or may not be out there like he's done historically. And I don't think that's necessarily wrong either, but there's no reason to think I don't think there's any reason to not think it's happening this year versus any of the other years.
I'll be shocked if he's back there behind the bench next season, just based off.
Well, we haven't contemplated. Yeah, well, and we haven't even talked about it. Another factor would be: is he going to be suspended going into the year? I mean, what's he going to face from any NCAA punishment that could still come from those two? The recruiting stuff and the sign stealing stuff.
They should make one of those videos like Urban made with Ryan Day when he hands a controller to him. But it should be Harbaugh handed it to Connor Stallions, like the manifesto is just sitting there at the coffee table and like he's ready to rock. Did you see Stallions was at the Rose Bowl? Did you see it?
Yeah.
That dude, man.
He knows how to get tickets.
A lot of decisions this time of the year. Who's back? Who's going to the NFL? We know 2 guys for sure off the NFL. We got Mike Hall, the defensive tackle, and linebacker Steele Chambers yesterday said he was leaving for the NFL. Steele, good run, good career, very serviceable linebacker. Mike Hall, I think, surprised a lot of people starting last season and maybe had a little better season last year, but can never hate on a guy for going to the NFL.
Yeah, no, I don't at all. I mean, Steele's not a surprise. And I think, a nice career here, selfless, move positions, get on the field, and all that good stuff. But I think Ohio State needs to, turn the page in the linebacker room for sure. Did Hall surprise you at all?
Maybe a little bit. I thought maybe last season was a better year for him, but again, there's a lot of things that we may not know about that factor into these decisions, and this may be one of those scenarios where it makes sense for him. And I'm not going to judge someone else from the outside, and selfishly would love everyone to come back, but I understand when guys leave. But a lot of guys are probably coming back. I mean, this has been buzzing for a little bit. Mecca is almost certainly coming back, and that's huge news. Travion, ditto. Sawyer kind of let it spill at Cotton Bowl Media Day that he'll be back for the opener against Akron, and that's great because he had a really, really good, like the only good player in the Cotton Bowl for Ohio State, if you're asking me. I mean, is there anyone else? Mirko, I guess Mirko bombed it. Mirko bombed it, but he hit the portal. So Sawyer's the only good player that's actually still on the team.
Burke was solid. Igbinosun had some. There were the defense had played well, but Sawyer obviously had stood out the best game he's played. So on what we talked about already was an upward trajectory. So if you got Egbuka, Henderson, and Sawyer back, those are all three huge. And I know there's a couple more names even still that could join them.
JTT, Tyreek Williams, Denzel Burke, a few other guys. Denzel again has made a decision, but he's going to announce it on January 10th. So about a week from today, we'll get to that. But we've been saying it for a while. Expect good news. Expect good news from a lot more of these than you might think in a typical year, which is guys that haven't beat Michigan, haven't won a Big Ten championship, want to come back and do some damage. So refreshing in that sense. Will Howard, the quarterback from Kansas State, very much still alive with Ohio State, and would be surprised if he's not wearing scarlet and gray next year.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get that just out there and done if that's going to happen, just so it's not twisting for too much longer. But yeah, I mean, like you said, if a lot of those guys come back, you're definitely going to need a distributor. I'm not sure we saw, I feel bad for Devin Brown, but at some point, the best ability is availability. So I need
injuries, man.
I need a little bit more comfort. If he was going to be the starter, well, who's going to be his backup? Because I think we saw that it's probably a stretch for Lincoln to do it at this stage, and could get a little better.
Lincoln's got
upside. More seasoning. I'm not taking anything away from him, but it's tough when you don't enroll early and you're coming from that level to just jump right in, especially as a third stringer. You're not really getting any snaps. So yeah, I feel like I'm really as a fan hoping that the Will Howard stuff gets official here sooner than later, so folks can start thinking about what does that look like? Is that a battle? If so, is it a realistic one? Is it a battle to try to keep folks from transferring? What does that look like as you get into very important winter workouts, leading into spring ball?
Absolutely. And you touched on Devin, and I love the guy. He's awesome, dude. Awesome. Just a great dude. But man, he's just can't stay healthy, man. Banged up this year, banged up again in the Cotton Bowl, lost a year of high school for injuries. Hope for the best and hope he can stay healthy, but we'll see what happens on that front. Portal, two wide receivers, Bryson Rogers and Noah Rogers, are both departed. Crowded room. They've got Jeremiah Smith, some other kids coming in. Mine Graham's going to be really good too. And you figure Smith's going to play a lot early. So it's tough. It's tough getting enough wide receivers on the field. And it's kind of almost like something they need to address in some form because they're bringing in too many. It's like we're complaining about too many talented players at one position, but man, it's tough in this day and age with the portal and NIL to keep those guys. If this is 10 years ago, man, Ohio State's loaded for forever, the position. But these days, it's much harder to keep guys.
I don't think that means you should stop trying to do exactly what he's doing, though, because you still never know who's going to be the best, right? I mean, was Olave supposed to be as good as he was? There's always these scenarios. To me, bring him in. If they transfer, they transfer. I don't think that really hurts the room or hurts Hartline's reputation. I think it would hurt his reputation if he stops cranking out first rounders. Now, if there's a way that you felt more comfortable that you got more of these guys on the field, I mean, once upon a time it was, you want to be six deep and run guys out there. And I know they've had such top end guys, it's hard to take them off the field. Like, I get it. Fans can't have it both ways. Develop receivers, but if Marvin Harrison's not in the game, fans are pissed off, right? So you kind of have to balance that. But yeah, I mean, realistically, you really only had about four guys or three guys do most of the work this year. Xavier, I think, had close to 300 snaps, and some of those were in the backfield and doing a lot lot of, widget type stuff. But, next year, if you've got Egbuka, you got Tate, you got Ennis, those are probably your starters, or some form of that. And then you got Smith as a 1A. Those are the top 4 guys. And past history says if you look at the snap counts, they are going to play a shit ton of snaps. Then it's okay. Yep. Do I think I'm better than Jalen Ballard? Do I think I'm, which is what Bryson and Noah Rogers are saying themselves. Those guys played a combined 20 snaps this year. So I get it, right? Especially when you see a freshman coming in that, you already think is going to play, especially if you're an X, right? Or a Z, like you know that it's going to be a little bit tougher for you to probably see the field. So I totally get it. So to me, it's just part of the deal. And I hope Heartline keeps stacking those dudes. And then the ones that want to fall, that's fine. I mean, in this day and age, so what? Somebody transferred. It's just about, who are you going to replace them with, especially the position where, like I said, I mean, the days of rolling 6 of them out there, they haven't done that in quite a while. That's a myth, not reality.
Yeah, and part of it too is that it's the new normal, and everyone's just kind of wrapping their head around it right now. Like there could come a time in 5 years where we're just that's how it is. We're used to it, because it's still a little shocking right now because it's a new thing, right? People leaving the program quickly. It's just a new thing. But Ohio State's not the only team that's this happening to. It's happening across the country. And again, in 5 years, we could look back and say, it's part of the game now, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, those same fans will cry when you don't get that commitment, and then when he transfers a year later, then you're crying. Then, I mean, it's if a guy doesn't have a path to the field, if a fan puts themselves in those same shoes, I mean, a lot of these guys that are transferred, they're going to go to other places and play. Even some of these like second and third string defensive backs, they didn't transfer to Michigan or Bama. They're going to Boston College. I'm not saying that to slight those kids. They want to play football. So they're realizing, okay, I was good enough to earn a scholarship here, but getting on the field's a little bit different beast. I can go do that somewhere else. Okay, good luck. I'm happy for all of them. And then as long as Heartline keeps bringing in guys, even if they transfer out, you're still going to end up with a 4-man rotation that's, that looks elite on paper.
Yep. On the coaching front, man, 2 coaches, the fans, they don't want him to be coaching anymore. And Parker Fleming, special teams guy, Corey Dennis, the quarterback coach. I think if you polled fans, those would be the 2 guys that they want Day to make changes there. And there's some angst, and people are like, why are they still here? Why, I thought we'd get rid of one or both, or why are they still? I looked it up, man. I went back. I was like, I'm curious because Day will move on from guys. He's not, going to hold on to guys. And they announced Kerry Combs' departure on January 13th. Okay. And then they announced Shiano's in February. So 2 guys he's moved off from, not quite. They're not going to come January 3rd, January 2nd, January 4th. Give it a little bit of time. I think, don't freak if you're expecting changes in the coaching staff, and maybe there aren't going to be coaching changes, but if there are, give it some time. It's not going to happen right away. But I would say if you're one of those fans who's frustrated, wait and see. If we get to March and there's no changes, then get mad.
A little bit different beast. But and part of it is not that you need an immediate replacement, but you at least want to kick the tires, start sniffing around. Who's out there that would do, that would fill vacancy A or vacancy B? I mean, I think we're talking about, the same 2 position coaches that we have been, right? So you want to get a little bit of feel for what you think might be out there. Again, it's not imminent, like you need to fill it the next day, but I don't think you want to be starting fresh from then either. So, I think it's a good reminder actually, because myself, I'm like, one of these is done, the dumbest deal that was ever done. I mean, you could have announced it 6 months ago, right? Mm-hmm. So just make it happen. But I also get that there's a lot of other things. Like, I mean, this calendar is just nuts with what these guys have to do. Day's got plenty of time to do that.
Yeah, he sure does. Hey, you want to talk some hoops?
Yeah, we might as well get into it briefly.
Let's have a hoops rule where they have to be like, I don't know, 600 or better for us to talk about them. If they ever fall below 600, we're just going to ignore them on the show. Is that fair?
Yeah. I think,
if they're like 542,
overall, we're in the Big Ten.
Overall, we'll give them a little bone. But if they're like 542 overall, then it's just like, we're not talking about hoops. I'm sorry, man. You gotta be better. Like, there's a women's team we can talk about. There's a women's ice hockey team that's good. There's a wrestling team that's good.
I get it.
But right now, what are they? 12-2, 11-2?
11-2. I think.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I expected 11-2, and I know the knock on Holtmann is, it's January now. Let's see what they do. But I feel like this team's got a really, really good backcourt. They won 78-75 in OT over West Virginia Saturday. This is a West Virginia team. You follow the sport a lot closer than I do, but you think they're going to look better and better over time. It's, a team that came in maybe not with the best record, but they're probably better than their record showed.
Yeah, well, yeah, they had lost some. They had some guys out with injury and different issues like that. So as they slowly get those guys back, I think they'll be a better team. And they're the typical, even without Bob Huggins looking like a pimp on the sideline, they're still a team you don't want to play, right? They play defense, they're physical, all that kind of stuff. I think it's a good opponent for Ohio State to play in the non-conference because it gives you a little flavor of Big Ten when you get in a rock fight. So I like the matchup for sure, and being able to hang in there after kind of letting West Virginia back in and then you go into overtime and Bruce stepping up after an off game and helping in overtime. It was a nice win. Neutral court, right? It was in Cleveland, but West Virginia had a lot of fans there, so that had a tournament feel to it as far as the crowd. I think that's a good environment for Ohio State to play in as they, look ahead and try to get to some, reach some goals that they haven't been able to reach since Holtmann's been here.
Yeah, I mean, not to get sidetracked, but I saw West Virginia made the NCAA soccer final, men's soccer.
Oh, really?
It lost to Clemson. Like two schools, you're like, whoa, okay, I guess. Yeah. I mean, you think UCLA, Indiana, some of these other traditional soccer. But I think, so West Virginia had a head coach, and I want to say he was English, like from London. I looked the dude up. He's from London or something. Yeah, I'm like, can you imagine like a guy from London, like a big world city, very bustling, very modern, and he's in Morgantown right now, living part of his life. Like, what a culture shock. But again, sidetracked. Bucks have two really good guards, man. The backcourt's really strong. Roddy carried him against West Virginia. Bruce has kind of struggled a little bit lately, but I don't know a ton about college hoops, but what I've always heard is that good guard play can carry you.
Yeah, I think it's obviously, people, sometimes it might feel cliche, but it does matter in the tournament. You need to be able to score points. You need guards that bring the ball up. And, Bruce has done those things. 3 of the last 4 games, he hasn't shot it very well. I think he's shooting about 35% from the floor over his last 4 games, 30% from deep. But he's not a guy I'm worried about. And like I said, in that overtime, he might have been 2 for 9 going into the overtime, something like that. But got a couple buckets, free throw, played really good in overtime. And Roddy obviously had a really good game against West Virginia, picking up. That's the thing that Holtmann has this year that he hasn't had in the past. You have some reliance on a guy or maybe a guy and a half, and if those guys aren't hot, then you're screwed. This year he's got legit 3 different dudes who can lead him in scoring in any given night with those 2 and then Jamison Battle. So having that versatility where someone can get hot, battle from deep, that kind of thing, I think really helps. But Roddy, though, is still just amazing to me. I mean, Bruce is probably the most valuable person because he's got the ball in his hands and he never turns it over. That's what Roddy's got to get to, right? I mean, both of those are high usage guys that got the ball in their hand a lot. Bruce is averaging barely a turnover a game, and Roddy's up at like 2.8 or something like that right now. So he just got to cut down on those a little bit, and I think they'll be in really good shape. But as you said, I mean, the calendar flips to January. You got Rutgers at home tonight. You go to Indiana for a prime timer. I think it's on Fox again, kind of like last week, which is cool, like a national type game. Saturday night in Bloomington, so that will be good. See how Ohio State can get going here. Rutgers 93 in Ken Palm's rankings, and Indiana's like 87. So these are winnable games for an Ohio State team that's ranked 29th in Ken Palm right now. For Rutgers, it's about beating their defense. They're a really elite defense, but they cannot score. I think they were 240 in adjusted offense in Ken Palm's
seems
ratings. Bad. But like 16th in defense. So they're going to D you up. It's a game where, again, your guards need 2 of those 3, right, to step up and be playing. But getting off the good start in January is important. Holtmann, he's had some rough Januaries. Hell, he's had some rough Februaries. But in January in his career, I looked it up, 24-24 at Ohio State in January. So not necessarily what you want to see. 2-7 last year in January. So 8-1 his first year. In between, it's just in between last year and that, it's just been kind of up and down. So stringing a good January together would go a long way in creating some wannabe believers in the fan base. Maybe get a few more people at the shot, and that starts tonight at Rutgers. So hopefully that's one they can put in the bag. It's one they should win. Hopefully, because I know attendance has been it's taken a little bit of a hit this year. I think they had an all-time low for the shot earlier in the season. 8,800 for a couple. It's brutal. It's fun watching this team this year. I'll say that. And I don't know that it's always been the case in the last 3 years or so. I feel like I've been a straight shooter with Holtmann, and I'm cautiously optimistic about this group. I think this is definitely a put up or shut up year for him, and I feel like so far, again, we're getting into January, but I feel like so far you feel like some pieces there. The Penn State game they lost, that was bad. That was Holtmann special. I think I saw some people calling it, but I think that let's see what happens now. I think they've got better pieces, better roster construction, need some guys to grow and develop as the season goes on. Certainly Devin Royal, Scotty Middleton, but feels like they got some pieces, and gosh, if they could go 2-0 this week, that would be huge.
Yeah, I agree. Well, hey, that's all for us this week. Thanks for joining us. We're having a lot of fun with this, and stay tuned.